Hi, everybody. Welcome to Bench Racing. My name is Steve Hansen. In today's episode, we are going to discuss Kansas and kind of back up a little bit and start with Bristol because that seems to be a hot topic on the lack of a crowd, so to speak, or and should they get still keep the two dates? Listen, way back when they made that Coliseum looking deal with Bristol, I said, how long is this going to be sustainable that you will pack all of those 100 and whatever thousand seats? Okay. When we were in this big NASCAR boom, you know, these mile and a halves had seating and blah blah blah. Texas had all this seating and Kansas and after a while they weren't getting those people there and they tore it all down, like the backstretch at Texas. And therefore, so my point is this, everybody, let's not lose our minds that there was, 50, 60,000 people at Bristol. I mean, when you have a stadium like that, it's hard to make it look full because I don't know that they're going to get 100,000 people at a Bristol again. And so my point has always been this with the attendance. I don't care where it's at. Make it an event. Make those tickets worth something. Make them affordable for one thing. But that's a topic for another day to break it all down. But the biggest thing that NASCAR was doing, and I get it, it was all economics, and that let's hoard the people in. Well, they hoarded the people in, but a lot of people I talked to, even back when they were getting all those people to the track, was there was no value for your ticket. You go to a lot of events, and this is the other thing to bear in mind, everybody. This is a form of entertainment, and so you've got social media galore. You've got all kinds of stuff galore these days. So the disposable dollar that they call this is getting pulled in a lot of different directions, and to bring them to the racetrack, you've got to create an atmosphere. Humpy Wheeler was the best at it, and as far as creating all kinds of fun stuff to do at the racetrack. When you bought a ticket to Charlotte Motor Speedway for any event that Humpy Wheeler had going on, you got value for your dollar because there was all kinds of stuff to go on. There was entertainment value there. And I've said this before. I have not been to a NASCAR race for quite some time, but I have talked to people that have, and they have kind of explained that there's not as much going on as used to be. Now, that being said, you have Steve O'Donnell and those people with NASCAR that have realized that they were too busy raking in the money and not worrying about the fans, because just like a few weeks ago, I can't remember if it was Darlington or Rockingham where it was, a bunch of the NASCAR officials just kind of they went and sat amongst the crowd, if you will, and just kind of mingled and listened and all that kind of stuff. Well, when you're in the entertainment business as they are, he has admitted that they got away from listening to the fans. And mind you, opinions are like buttholes. Everybody's got one. It's just a matter of if it smells bad, it probably ain't a good idea. What my dad used to say. But anyway, at least they're trying to get back to it. But bottom line, back to the Bristol thing, everybody. I'm not concerned about the 60, 70,000 people or however many they had there. I mean, you had 15 to 20,000 people over at Nashville watching the Cars Tour race with Junior there and stuff. So I'm not too shook about it. I don't know why some people are losing their mind about it. So there's that. And now let's switch gears and go to Kansas. I watched the O'Reilly's race and a little bit of the ARCA race and the Cup race and everything. And of course, as has happened, everybody's, it was a crappy race and this and that, and it was the on fest and this and that. And Again, I have been watching this stuff for a very long time, and there was nothing new about Kansas or the type of race that it was. And so, this day and age, and I've said this before, not every race is going to have you hanging on the edge of your seat every lap. When you've got a 400-mile race, 500-mile race, whatever, it's just not going to be, on the edge of your seat action like a stick and ball sport sometimes is. Sometimes, as we know, football games, basketball games, hockey games, whatever, and are not all that riveting. So, anyway, I thought the racing was okay. I mean, uh, Tyler Gray won the O'Reilly's race, and it was it had some excitement in it, and one thing and another. The ARCA race, the kid that won it, he probably shouldn't have. The Ruggiero shouldn't have won it, but they let him knock that gal out of the way that was running 10th, and got the field bunch back up, and then so that gave him the opportunity to because I think he was running third at the time, but that should have never happened because it was pretty clear it was blatant, and he caused the caution. So there is that. But then we had the Cup race on Sunday, and it had its moments. Kloppel kid rolled his car, 3 or 4 laps into the race, and thankfully was okay. And then we get down at the end of the race, and Cody Ware spins out, and you got Denny Hamlin all pissed off that what the hell, we're that far from the end. Well, there's two edges to that. The way that he spun, did we really need to have a caution? We're inside of 5 laps. Did we really need to have a caution? But they threw the caution, so everybody does their tire thing and one thing another, and so it comes out, and of course we've got the battle that we had, and wouldn't you know, Tyler Reddick comes from out of nowhere and winds up winning it. So now you have the conspiracy theorists, and I am not really bought into that. But I can. It's not like it's just Toyota that's winning. It's 2311 Toyotas that's doing most of the winning. So, I get where the whole concept of the of the conspiracy theorist is, but if it had to been for that caution, yeah, Hamlin wins the race going hands down, and all that kind of stuff, and so now, of course, there's rhetoric out there that Cody Ware was paid to spin out or whatever. I've seen some stuff on that, everybody, and it probably would have some credence, I guess, if he was driving a Toyota, but he's not. So, anyways, there's that. But anyway, the whole point of the matter, the race was the Kansas race. They're not all riveting, and folks, I've been watching these races for a very long time, and these types of races happen. IndyCar has these same kind of. It gets to be a yawn fest. Same thing with F1. So at the core of it, you have to sit down and pick out what. While the racing seems boring, I get that. You have to sit down as a race fan and study what makes you like racing to begin with. You follow the driver, hate another driver, and all that stuff, whatever. But folks, we've got to kind of calm this roller coaster on the type of races we like, we hate, we're boring, we're this, we're that. And that's the thing with social media. There's just so much of that stuff out there anymore. But I thought it was an okay race. It wasn't the best, no, until you had the stuff at the end. I'm going to say one more time that the whole stage break thing, yeah, bunches them up, but I think if you let strategy play more into it, and we'll see how this works with Talladega because they've changed the rules on the stages. We'll see how this plays out with Talladega and get back to it and see how everything goes. But with that, everybody, hope you all have a great day. And remember, it's better to have raced and went broke than to have never raced at all. Take care, everybody.